Welcome to Cable 10 Live. My name is Michael A. Charbon, and we will be here for the next hour and a half talking about a very important topic. In the early 1900s, actually it was at 1905, Thomas Jefferson made a statement which was separation of church and state, where the church would have no influence on government and government should have no influence on the state. Here we are in Canada, we're a Judeo-Christian society where our morals and our basis of our government, our money, our pledge to allegiance to our country is based on Judeo-Christian values. We are becoming more secular, and one of the comments you will get is France is a very secular society. La Cité was their example of secularism, where religion should have no part in governance whatsoever. We, on the other hand, in North America, and particularly in Canada, are a Judeo-Christian based society, and we have certain doctrines. We've had prayers before council meetings, political organizations, etc. What has happened, brought to our attention, is that the city of Brampton now has decided that they are going to eliminate the Lord's Prayer at the beginning of their council meetings. And there are some people who are concerned with, are we entering into a slippery slope? Should that be something that is not happening? We should not involve religion in our politics. We're here today to discuss that, and we want to involve you and engage you into our discussion. Cable 10 Live is an interactive show. You can chime in with your questions, with your comments. 908-48-5483 is a telephone number, and you can join in to this conversation. We've got a very esteemed panel here. We've got together four people who are going to discuss with us today the pros and cons and the aspect of relieving the Lord's Prayer before any of our civic council meetings. So I'd like to introduce my guests. Starting directly beside me is Miss Greta Archer. Miss Archer has been in the Peel region for over 26 years. Her husband is a pastor, and she does believe the Lord's Prayer should be part of our civic duty. Beside Miss Archer is Dr. Ralph Green. Mr. Green, 13 years as a public school trustee, and is also here to express his opinions with regards to the Lord's Prayer and our political system. Beside Dr. Green is Miss Susan Gunther. Miss Gunther is also a resident of Brampton, and she is a soldier with the Salvation Army. And beside Miss Gunther, last but not least, Mr. Rudy Fernandez. Mr. Fernandez is a executive with Global Healthcare Strategies. Thank you to all of you on this Monday evening, very cold outside, to join us on this very important topic. I'm going to go to you first, Miss Archer. Knowing full well that your husband is a pastor, we have to divulge that. So there is a little bit of bias there, if you wish. Religion is part of your life every day. Yes. But why do you believe that we should say the Lord's Prayer before a city council meeting in anywhere, be it in Peel, be it in Brampton, be it in Mississauga? Why do you feel that that is an important part of what we should do as a society?
I came to Canada 34 years ago, and that was one of the reasons I came, because of the Christian values and traditions of the country. Freedom of religion, freedom of worship. And so I believe it's important. It's a 30-year tradition in the government. And so I don't see the necessity of it being taken out, and especially just so very quickly and arbitrarily, it would seem to me.
Arbitrarily is an important point, Ms. Archer. You bring up the point. It has been brought to the attention that the elimination of the Lord's Prayer from Brampton City Council was something that was passed without any input from the public, from what we understand. And so we'd be interested to hear what you, the folks in Brampton and the Peel region, think about this. I'm going to go to Dr. Green. Dr. Green, 13 years in the public school trustee position. The Lord's Prayer was taken out of public schools probably 10 years ago, I would say, or more?
Longer. Yes, longer.
Longer than that. When we eliminated the Lord's Prayer from school, you would have to stand up, you would either sing the national anthem, and then you would say the Lord's Prayer, and then there were all these exceptions where people said, well, we don't want their child to repeat the Lord's Prayer because they felt that it was an infringement on their rights. How do you look upon the Lord's Prayer being eliminated now from Brampton City Council?
Well, if you go back to 1990, I was at a trustees convention in Toronto. And when I came down to breakfast, I saw the paper there, Lord's Prayer struck down. Mm-hmm. And that shocked me. And those days, we actually, as a board, the other trustees banding with me, 16 to 5, we helped the Sudbury board promised to help the Sudbury Board with both lawyers and funds to fight that. They had gone through 2 levels of court at that time. They won at the first level, lost at the second. The only way to go then was to the Supreme Court of Canada. And I guess our lawyer at the time suggested that it might cost up to $250,000
Yeah, the price of legal.
to go forward. In reality, it was about $25,000. And so it was much overstated. That frightened the trustees. The 16 to 5-4 reversed to 16 against to 5-4.
So Sudbury got theirs eliminated as well.
Well, we were going to help them. They wanted to go no
But the
further.
bottom line, Doctor, they were
Yes.
eliminated as well.
Yes, ultimately.
Right, ultimately.
Yes.
So there again, we look at the slippery slope. Interesting. I'll go to Miss Gunther, Susan Gunther. You're an officer, a soldier of the Salvation Army. I mean, the Salvation Army, we see the Red Kettle effort, all the things that you do for our community, people who are adversely affected economically, shelters, etc. You are based on a Christian and or Catholic basis. The Lord is important to what it is that you do. How do you see the Lord's Prayer being out of our political realm as it is now from a Salvation Army's point of view?
Well, what I guess caused me to start a petition mainly was I would go to council meetings just as a citizen, not as a Salvationist or anything like that. And I was surprised at the humility, really, that went into our council, our mayor, standing up and saying, I acknowledge there's a higher power. I am accountable to a higher power, not just my own ideas and my own will be done here, but I am accountable to a higher power.
There would be some people who would say that that is your privilege and your belief. Others would say that by inflicting religious doctrine on those who don't necessarily espouse that doctrine is unfair. But one would also have to consider that 64%, there was a poll, the government, Stats Canada did a poll in 2011, 64% of Canadians believe in some form of Catholicism, Catholic, Christian, etc. And if you look at those kind of numbers, I mean, that's 2/3 of the country, so it's not such a stretch. I'll go to you now, Mr. Fernandez. You work with global healthcare strategies. What's your take on this as an entrepreneur and as someone who isn't directly affiliated with a religious organization per se?
Right. One of the things we have to keep in mind is what the country thinks. 86% of Canadians believe God should remain in the public domain. This is not my stats. This is CBC did a big study. So in other words, you're right, 2/3 happen to be Catholics, but 86% believe in God. In our national anthem, we pay allegiance to God. In our rights and freedoms, Charter of Rights and Freedoms, God is very much there.
And I will say, though, I mean, the Peel region is one of the most diverse communities that we have in this country. Over 650,000 immigrants came to the Peel region in the last year. And the diversity of religion was a great scope on what it is. Some would say that because of the diversity that we have in the region of Peel, and particularly in Brampton, that the Lord's Prayer may be eliminating some people who don't necessarily espouse to Catholicism. Now, I'm taking the devil's advocate here. I'm not trying to go one side or the other. We want to stimulate a discussion. And discussion involves you, the folks at home. 905-848-5483 is your opportunity to chime in. You have the opportunity to comment, to question, and pose a question. I'm very fortunate to have 4 people here who take my question. We want to take your question. We want to hear what you have to say. Mr. Fernandez, just to continue my point, yes. The region of Peel is so diverse. We have so many different religions in the region of Peel. If we say that we are a secular society, if we say the Lord's Prayer, are then we as well bound by our commitment to be non-one religion? Do we have to say all the prayers from all the religions?
What an excellent question. Anyone who has seen the text of the Lord's Prayer will understand and appreciate there's nothing here that is Christian. It's a completely generic prayer that was said to start with by Jesus when he was Jewish. And Would like to hand over a copy to you.
The interesting thing, I don't know if some of our viewers, I mean, the Muslim community believes in Jesus. They not also include a prayer from someone else, and that's where we get into that slippery slope.
Right. But because this is a basis and of our faith, and I'm sure there are many out there who believe this, and we have seen it from the response to all the petitions to everything. And so we say, have a standard, have a base, have a foundation. That is the tradition will be carried on by our children and our children.
Of our community was based. Some would say that as our demographics has changed, as our society has changed, that we also have to change. Others would say that by changing, we are diluting what our founders, if you wish to coin a phrase that they use in the United States, what our founders established, because we are based as a Judeo-Christian society.
Exactly.
We have made many compensations.
Yes.
So how do we deal with this? If someone out there feels vehemently that we should continue the Lord's Prayer because they believe that that's a part of it, and others would say no, because you're not acknowledging my religion, which is, I mean, the facts are actually quite interesting. They say that in 2011, with a Canadian population of 32 million, 22 million people count themselves as being Christian. 7.8 million people consider themselves as not being religious at all.